Welcome to A Veteran Story. I'm Bob Cpl, and today I have a very special guest, Cpl Jack Medzorian, United States Army. Jack, welcome to A Veteran Story. It's an honor to have you here. And we're going to be discussing Jack's 90 years.
It's a long time.
on this earth. And Jack, let me just again say that you have a fascinating story, and I hope we can do justice to it. But let's start off with, we share the common bond of being first generation. Our parents immigrated. And I'm always in awe of how they did it, how they came with limited education, limited language, established themselves, and this is the story of most first generations, and certainly you're one among those. But let's go back to their time in, actually, it was Turkey, where your grandparents were
Parents, yeah.
What was going on in the world in that time frame, 1906, 1909, when your mom and dad immigrated? What was going on in Turkey?
Well, in Turkey, Armenians, that part of Armenia, which is central Armenia and eastern Armenia, is where the traditional, historic Armenian homeland is. And that's where the Armenians lived. The Turks had, as Mongols, they had invaded that area and taken over that whole area, including the part where Armenians lived. So Armenians were subjects of the Turkish government. And while, there were periods when they did live peacefully as neighbors, because there were communities with Armenians and Turks, there was this feeling among the Turks that as Armenians got to be more successful, whether it's in business or in agriculture or academics, that they were fearful that they would lose control of their country, and they started to oppress the Armenians, put them down. Put them down, I mean, in terms of trying to eliminate their cultures, but that means eliminating the people. So in the case of, more specifically in the case of my parents, who came from central Turkey, in a major city which is called Harpet, probably 200 to 300,000 people, there was a beginning of a massacre. There was a massacre actually in 1894 to 96, perpetrated by Abdul Hamid II, who was the Sultan at the time. They called him the Bloody Sultan. He had that nickname. And he killed 300,000 Armenians, a lot of them in that central area where Harpet is. And so the Harpetsis, especially the Harpetsis, decided, well, it's not safe to live here anymore. We've got to find a new home. So that was true of both my grandparents, who came over with their families. And I've told the story. Should I repeat that story? Yeah. Anyway, they had no language capability, no particular skills. My father was the oldest of 5 brothers, but he had an older father, of course, older, and his aunt, his father's sister, and her son. He had to take care of all of those, being only 15 years old, not knowing the language and not having 5 cents in his pocket. But I marvel at what he did, because I can't hold a candle to what he did. He 4 years later, he had started the first tire retreading company in New England. And I asked my dad, why did you pick tire retreading? He said, well, tires were just converting over from solid rubber to balloon tires, and they weren't lasting very long, so they needed to be repaired, they needed to be retreaded. And he said, I learned that technology, and decided that was going to be a good business in the future because cars were.
And he was 19 years old.
And he was only 19 years old, and meantime he had learned the language, and he was able to, keep his family going with whatever amount of money he was able to earn. But of course his brothers got older and they joined the business with him, and it was a family business for about 65 years.
Mm-hmm. And those stories always just...
So I always, when I think about myself and my work habits and my attitude about things, a lot of it comes from reflecting on that and the hardships that he must have gone through.
Oh,
he never
God,
talked
yes.
about his hardships, but I know he had hardships, and the same thing with my mother's family. Mm-hmm. My grandfather was only a cobbler. He was a shoemaker. But he was a smart shoemaker because he would open up different shoemaker shops. One wasn't enough, and he would bring the business up, and when it was doing well, he would sell it, and then go to a depressed shoe store and build that business up, sell that, so he could get extra income to keep 5 children going.
And
so these are stories that are, to me, always amaze me, especially with an immigrant population that didn't know the language, didn't know the culture, but somehow they accommodated. And I think that's the thing about our heritage. Armenians have that. And I think that some of that does rub off. It rubs off on you, rubs off on me, because we have common ancestry going back to Turkey. I say Turkey, it's really Armenia, but it was under Turkish occupation, so to speak. But I say the genocide that people talk about 1915, I pull back and I say, well, it really started in 1894. Continued on, 1894 to 96, the Hamidian massacre, in 1909, the Adana massacre, and 1915, the Great Massacre, all genocide. All the intent was genocide, to remove Armenians from the country. And I have a book that was given to me by the Genocide Museum in Armenia that's about so thick, and it has copies of newspaper articles in that period that I just described, 1894 all the way up. And it's day after day after day, and newspapers from all over the world talking about 500 Armenians killed, 1,000 Armenians killed. And these are all massacres, or genocide, or whatever you want to call it. But it's all this anti-Armenian to get rid of the Armenians. Until finally they had the final blow was 1915, when, we had 1.5 million Armenians. But anyway, that's a story, and I think that's made an effect on me and kind of a driving force with me. And a similar experience with my wife has a similar background. Her parents actually were in Armenia during the 1915 genocide. And I became very interested in, especially my father-in-law's story, because he actually fought the Turks. He escaped, and he went to what was at that time Russian-controlled Armenia. Now it's Armenia, the Republic of Armenia, and he traveled all throughout there. And my wife and I took his diary, because he wrote a diary, and translated that into English, and we have that in English, and he had a very, very moving story of how they had to escape, continuously escaping the Turks, until finally at the end he joined with other forces, and they were able to fight the Turks back to keep them on the other side of there's a dividing line there, which is the Ahuryan River in Gyumri, push them back to the other side. So in a way, they kind of preserved that small part of Armenia, historic Armenia, for Armenians, which today is, an independent republic. So, well, passion comes from that. What drives me and gets me going on these projects, these humanitarian projects, partly it's in partnership with my wife, because she shares the same passion that I do. And I don't say we always agree on the right steps to make, but we certainly are together on the same page as far as the passion is concerned, and that it's a duty. Somehow, it's almost like my father, my mother, and my grandparents told me that I must do this. This is my duty. They didn't. Nobody told me I had to do this. But somehow that's the way I took it when I learned about, what they had to go through. So my wife has that same experience. In some cases, she's pulling me. Some cases, I'm pulling her. Some cases, we're pushing each other. But we always have that one common thing, which is the drive and that passion to do whatever we can, because it's our duty. Somebody gave it to us as our duty to do, and so we have to do that. And that's about it. We have to do that until we finally drop dead and can't do it anymore. But hopefully our children can continue, and that's what we're kind of hoping for. My wife has taken all the women in my family, being herself, my daughter, and 2 granddaughters. That's 4 of them. Those are the 4 women in my family, and they're all in Armenia right now. And one of the reasons is my wife, Eva, wants to transfer her passion, build up the passion of our children and grandchildren, so that there'll be somebody that you can pass the baton on to. And I think it's happening, because I already see it in my grandchildren and my daughter. They're very passionate about it. But anyway, and my...
Well, Jack, I can see where that is, it's in the marrow of your bones, your
it's embedded.
love
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
your culture and history and what has happened.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to, just so we know a little bit more about you, you grew up in Arlington, went to Arlington High School, and on June 6, 1944, while we were landing in Normandy, you were graduating high school, and you giving the graduating speech to your class, and you had an outstanding high school
The title
career.
of my talk was The Man of the Future, and I was trying to describe the German soldiers who had been indoctrinated into Nazism, and that it wasn't their fault, that this is something that had been imposed on them by Hitler and the Nazi system. And I had hope that the man of the future would be more caring and think about other people and not be just self-centered as the Nazis were.
Well, that's interesting that in 1944 there was nothing but hatred towards the Germans and the Japanese. So that was kind of an advanced look at.
I was opening the door to saying basically it was just a handful of people that perpetrated
well,
this.
Well, as a teenager, that's kind of a
little different.
A little different.
Yeah.
and anyway, Jack, so then you go into the Army where you spend 2 years, and kind of a technical thing. You were in radio, and you were in radio repair, and involved in some projects like in being able to detect where
ground sound locator,
and that was called triangulation, which is which was new to the world, how to detect where the guns were and sound. And well, you spent 2 interesting years. You were all over the country: Fort Sill, Fort Benning, South Carolina. So you spent a fair amount of time, and then you also were part of the V programs where you went to college. You were in Norwich University, and then you were
North
in
Carolina
State. And fortune fell on you. The atomic bombs dropped August 6th, August 9th of 1945, where you were in uniform. And I bet you don't have a problem with President Truman's decision to drop the atomic bombs.
Yeah.
Fair statement?
Did I have a problem?
By a problem?
No, not at the time, no, because I think it saved thousands of U.S. lives, and after all, we were, we were looking after Americans.
And one of those
and
lives.
then the Japanese were, of course, attacked us, so we didn't consider them, you know, because their lives were, they were innocent people. The individuals were innocent people, but so were the soldiers who were fighting and would have had to fight in Japan in order to.
And one of those very well could have been you.
Yeah.
It probably would have been you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the war ends, and now you continue your education. You go to Boston University. You graduate in 1949, looking for a job, and you did something that was interesting. You put an ad to paper saying that here I am. I have a financial background and a technical background. Who needs me? Well, Baird Atomics was a local company at the time, was 50 to 75 employees with sales of $1 million. 42 years you spent there, and rising to general manager, second in command, where you left. They had 875 employees, $665 million. How many?
65 million.
$65 million. So you saw a rapid growth of this company, and you were a huge part of it. Part of the things they did was navigational aids that were on the U-2, the Francis Gary Powers aircraft, the night vision
goggles, and driver's views.
So you were part of this whole world of technology.
Surveillance, yeah.
So your career was quite a career. You saw a lot happen in 42 years, and you saw the growth of your company, and you were very successful. That's quite a story, Jack.
Well, it was a story of wanting to go to work every day, not having to go to work every day, because every day there was something different. There were new challenges, and new opportunities, and new problems to solve, and so going to work was not a chore. It was exciting. And I'm saying that now for 42 years. So, because we were that kind of a company, we had a lot of people who were innovative, and if you understand innovation, it doesn't just happen. Innovation needs a culture, and the company had to have a culture that helped to foster innovation, and that's what somehow Dr. Baird, who was a founder of the company, somehow he was able to do that. And I'm not saying that all the innovation was good, saleable, and marketable, because we had a graveyard full of products that didn't work, but at the same time, we had some great products. We had great firsts that we had created and developed markets for. So it comes from having the proper environment for fostering innovation. And I think that's true today, in today's technology too. You know, somewhat like what Apple did, you know. I mean, you think about the company Apple, and a lot of innovation there, thinking out of the box. And that's the kind of a company we were. So it was very interesting, and a lot of interesting people that we worked with. So.
As I know you, you have a curiosity about you, that you're curious. And you have people skills. It's just demonstrated how you can take a topic and make it understood. Would you think that those attributes really was a very strong reason why you had such success in Baylor?
Well, I think they helped, yeah. I think they did help. And I was, I guess maybe I was growing up too fast, because I never remember when I was like 14 or 15 years old, I said, oh, gee, civil defense, gee, I'm going to belong to that. I want to join that. And I signed up for it with some local organization, you know, community organization in Arlington. I signed up for it, and I was a member of this civil defense group. Then until they found out, hey, you're not even 16 years old. You're only 15 years old. And sorry, you can't be a member. I said, yeah, but I want to be a member. Well, you can't be a member. But things like that, I wanted to do that, whatever it was, like the challenge that was given to me when I was in high school. My English teacher, you know, it was my first year in high school, a sophomore, and she said, "Well, I want to ask you to run the newspaper." Well, what is there to running a newspaper? I don't know anything about journalism, and yeah, but you can write, and you know English pretty well, and so forth, and so. And this is when I think back at it, when I was 5 years old, my first language was Armenian, because that's what I learned in the house and from my grandparents. I could speak to my grandmother only in Armenian. So I was forced to communicate in Armenian, and that was my first language. Not that I didn't know English, sure, I knew English, but it was my second language until I started to go to school, and then English became one of my strong suits. And so I think that, yeah, I think the drive has been there, and that's probably helped and shaped my career and also my whole lifestyle. My wife has been very supportive of what I do. And as I have explained many times, it's been a push-pull situation. She and I have the same immigrant background. I mean, immigrant meaning our parents were immigrants. And she has a great passion for the heritage that we've come through and and a great passion for helping the needy Armenians in Armenia and helping to develop the first Republic of Armenia since the independence of Armenia in 1991. In fact, we were there on that day, September 21, 1991, when there was all euphoria.
Jack, what are some of the, I know you've been to Armenia more times than you can count now, or certainly over 50 times, maybe even close to 75 times. Does that sound like a number that's accurate?
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you targeted that you think that you've helped advance?
Yeah. Okay, well, some of the things, we both, my wife and I, joined the Cambridge Adventist Sister City Association. What we liked about that was, that was in 1987 it was founded, and we just had our 31st annual meeting yesterday. And we joined that, and that was an organization, a sister city organization of Cambridge citizens and citizens in Armenia. So most of those founders of the Cambridge Adventist Sister City Association were non-Armenians, but they were driven for a desire to have world peace. And in 1987, the Cold War was pretty hot and heavy. It was cold, I should say, cold and heavy. And these peace committee of Cambridge had members who were trying to promote world peace. So they thought that a sister city would be a nice way to do it, and they found Yerevan, Armenia, and made that pact. Okay, so what did we do? Through that organization, we had exchanges of people, professionals, business people, teachers, and so there was education, there was business. So I got involved after my wife did. My wife actually got involved very early on. And I was very busy with work, but I got involved. And we ran a lot of educational programs for those people. And then the US government had a very interesting program called Community Connections, where they would have put out tenders, you know, opportunities to bid on grants to train professionals from Armenia, bringing them here. They would pick the people, the government, US government would, and qualify them, and groups of 10 would come here in different skill levels. So there would be teachers, businessmen, administrators, educational administrators, scientists, aviation managers, museum managers, theater managers. We did 19 programs like that, all these different skills. So I would write the proposals, we would win. We won every one we wrote. And we had to learn all about that particular skill because we had to teach them. Well, we had to set up a program that would be meaningful for them, remembering that these were all professional people. So we did that, and we did 19 of those. Groups of 10, find host families and house them and all that. Then we had youth exchange programs. We had 10 of those. And I am proud to say that in 1994, our first youth exchange program, which my wife Eva ran, we had a person who is today has risen to the rank of Minister of Defense. So the Minister of Defense of Armenia was a 17-year-old student who had come here, and we gave him a training program of 3 weeks. When he returned, his parents thanked us, because when we saw them in Armenia, they said, "Thank you very much for what you've done for our son. He's a different person now. He seems to be more focused. He knows what he wants to do. And we know that the training he got in your program has helped him a lot." So he's today defense minister.
Jack, in these 90 years, you've left some big footprints, you and Eva. So at this time, we're going to close. So I want to thank you for sharing your time and experience with A Veteran Story. We all want to thank you for your service. So, Corporal Jack Medzorian, United States Army. I would like to give you the closing moments here to dedicate this fascinating life, this fascinating story that you have lived these 90 years to whoever.
Yeah. Well, I would say that I'm going to dedicate this to, well, the living, which is my wife, because my wife has stood right by me on everything that I've done, and she has supported me. By supporting me, I mean, whatever I was doing, she had, at the same time, her duty to bring up our 4 children. But at the same time, she, did that without too much support from me, because I was working, well, sometimes 24/7. So thanks to Eva, my wife Eva, who shares the same passion that I have about our heritage. And we both got it from our parents and our grandparents, and it stuck. And it drives us in all the projects that we do, humanitarian projects for Armenia, driven by that passion. And we're hoping that, and we wish in our legacy for our children to have that same passion. They won't have exactly the same, because it's going to be, certainly it's diluted, being one generation below us, but we also have the grandchildren, which is 5 grandchildren, and we think that we see in some of them the same intense feeling that we have at times. We've taken the whole family to Armenia. There were 14 of us about 4 years ago, and it gave them an experience, and I think that it was something worthwhile, and hopefully that baton will be passed on, and that there'll be continuing support for the not only keeping our heritage, but perpetuating it, because I think perpetuating it is also very important.